Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah, I can.
Uh-oh.
Can I say something?
Oh, yes.
Oh wait, hold on, I got some stuff here. I have lint. It's a good camera. Um, I have learned that my hair in this hard water down here in Texas has been killing it.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, guys, shout out to hard water.
yeah.
Soft heart, hard
I'm
water.
ignorant. What does hard water mean? Mineralized?
It's water. It'll just shoot you, man.
It's like hardcore water.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No feelings, nothing. It doesn't
No.
express
Yeah.
itself. It's water that has never played an acoustic guitar. Water that doesn't journal.
Hasn't talked to its mom and
It will kick your ass if you show up in a sweater vest.
doesn't do Secret Santa.
I think it's like minerals and stuff. Yeah, so I mean, not to talk too much about my hair, but we'll get off this in 20, 30 minutes. But I got the worst hair. Quick, let's pay some bills. You guys, let's do some Zoom sessions, and
Yeah.
I want to start a challenge to people. I'm trying to figure out how to do this community, but it's I think of the one New Year's resolution that I hear that I think most people should have this year. Where it's not about me. I think a good resolution is, can you take your own advice? And that's a fun one. And now the dog is being pushy, but there's a dog
Can
right
you
there.
take your own advice?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a good one
Yeah.
because what I'm always talking about, like every martial arts thing, every meditation, it's always about bringing out your innate
Yeah.
wisdom. And but when we're giving advice, it's like gambling with someone else's money, right? It's like it's easy to give advice, and I'm around people all the time, and they'll come to me and they'll ask for stuff, but it's like I'm always asking myself, shit, I always wonder if does the advice work if I'm not doing it myself, right? Um, and I just sometimes I'll say something and I'm like, God, man, now that I said it, I kind of have to do it, right?
Now I gotta go do that shit.
Yeah, now I
Damn
got to do it. So
it. Yeah.
but I think
Yeah.
it's a good way
100
to
push-ups every day. That's the secret to success.
yeah,
100
yeah,
push-ups every day. Whoops.
yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna start a little challenge around that, just to kind of get people experiencing that, whatever it is that they would like. I remember someone was going through like a pretty intense kind of emotional thing, and I just said, imagine you're a child coming to you with the same problem. What would you tell them? And do that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Kind of thing. So,
Mhm.
how would you feel if
Mhm.
they were feeling this uneasy or this uncertain about life? And so, I think it's a fun little thing, little hack right there. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I went through a similar experience actually when it came to studying the calendar. And like in my own experience, I mean, it's part of the reason why I got sick. I had COVID for the first time, what was it? Like right before Thanksgiving.
yeah,
And I was down for like, I mean, the first week was terrible, or the first few days were
yeah,
terrible, and then it got progressively better after that. But like, I didn't test negative for like 3 weeks, so I was like navigating this thing for a minute, and in one form or another. But what it did is that because it happened like right perfectly in alignment with the calendar. And some of the things that I was talking about, of like, hey, better slow down or you're gonna get sick. Boom, and then it happened to me. And so I had to, like, I really did have to roll back. I mean, it was clear and immediate, like the habits that I was doing and the ways that I was continuing to act like it was summer.
you
And
showed
I
up
got,
smelling like coconuts.
yeah, I was definitely, and I'm grateful for it,
Yeah,
because ever since then, it's given me like, well, just the excuse really, like, oh, just kind of continue on that sort of
can I say something?
seclusion path. Yeah.
Did y'all know that when we did the full moon talk, Scott was there, full blown COVID, and
I mean, no, at
full
that point, it
blown.
wasn't full. Oh, come on.
How was, how was your test, Scott? Was it positive? And you're just sitting there, just putting all of our lives in danger.
I did do one.
Yeah, yeah. It
I
was,
didn't do one.
but yeah, no, but
Yeah.
we were all fine. We were all fine. None of us got COVID. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But I'm glad you're feeling better.
Um,
Let's get into it. We just left the what moon? Just oh, blank, blank
wood
moon. What
rat. It's
wood rat? And we're going
we just
into
left the wood rat. A wood ox.
wood ox, wood rat, wood ox. So now we are in wood ox moon as of now, right?
Thursday. Thursday.
As
Thursday.
of Thursday. Okay.
As
All
of
right.
Thursday. Yeah, we'll
Quick
be starting
gist,
this one.
soundbite. What is it?
But the gist is respect yin.
Ooh,
That's the gist.
I think it's been
Yeah,
the gist of like
respect.
the past 3 months.
Yeah. Well, true. And a lot of it is, but it's more intense now, actually. Once because yin is in decline. I mean, the image that I'll give you, and maybe we'll come back to this image or not, is think of, and it's not even at this point yet, but think of yang qi, the with winter solstice, which we just went through, has this kind of rebirth of the light or the return of the light. So
Mhm.
then you have this image of yang qi is being released into the world, but it's like a
Oh
newborn,
yeah,
right? Or it's like it's like one of those little baby joeys that climbs up into the pouch of its mother. It's like hella tiny and small and weak, not really capable of doing anything. Because if you think about what is generative, the source of all generation, from in the Chinese cosmology, is when heaven and earth reunite. And at the beginning of winter, heaven and earth separate, and they haven't come back together. So the source of all generation and activity um, is this sort of process of heaven and earth reuniting, which won't happen until spring. So
yeah.
you have this gray area that's happening right now where yin is in decline and yang is nowhere near strong enough to like take the reins. But there are
Yeah.
these subtle shifts that are happening because you have yin that is like in decline but still ruling, but can see that I'm on my way out, right? Like can
Mm.
vision I'm on my way out. And yang qi is like under the pressure of yin still, but still has this kind of independent posture, doesn't buckle, and can play in the yard by itself, but like has containment, has like real
Mm.
containment because it needs to be nourished. And so they're both visioning, they're both having an imagination. And the imagination of yin is like, I need to pass down. And the imagination of yang is, can't wait to take charge, right? But they're both very delicate. So this kind of gray area is the reason why. And this gray area is like really is the whole topic of the 12th moon is this gray area of the ox. And the ox is both this sort of holding to continuity. It is, along with the rat, the ox is the absolute symbol of perseverance, slow and steady, right? Like this kind of like, keep on keeping on, don't need to change
Mm.
nothing. And like, and because it has retreated into these like absolute essential places of home, it's not really overextending itself. It's just basically it's taking care of what needs to be taken care of, and it's preparing because the ox moon is an earth moon. And I bore you with the details, but basically it's to say that the ox moon is one of the four earth moons that come throughout the year, and it presents a transition, a real transition between the seasons. So this is the last moon of winter before we go into spring, and ox's transition is to as they say, it buries the metal from the autumn. And the purpose of the metal in autumn is to retreat, consolidate, right? So it buries that and it prepares for the expansion, but is not expanding. It's just preparing, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole idea around the ox is get your ducks in a row, for sure, but recognize your the delicate nature of what you're dealing with, Matt.
That's a mindfulness exercise that that I do, that I teach, that's in the mindfulness course. It's just called roll call, and it reminds me of like you're about to go on a trip. It's just like you lay out the
Right.
thing. You're not going on the trip, but you're making sure like you can write everything down that you need to
What
take
kind
for
of
the
things
trip,
do
and
I
then you
have?
put it in. You just go through and
Hmm.
you just call roll. You just make sure, okay, we got the. And I
Hmm.
that's a it's funny. I've been doing that a lot. Like I'm making more to-do lists than usual right now. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're still in this kind of the image of the grandmother and the grandchild, the little boy, and the little boy is like a toddler, and the grandmother is trying to look after him.
Mhm.
So there isn't a lot of capacity for yang qi in independent action, even though there's an appetite for it. So it's sort of dependent on yin to kind of guide and give the guidelines and all that. By the end of this moon, it will be much more capable, and yin will be, kind of like the grandmother that doesn't really get out of the chair that much, so what we want to cultivate as we're looking forward in yang qi is kindness and sincerity, because we're basically setting the tone, for our entire year for how yang is going to act. Right. So if it's impetuous and cries out and just like throws things around and like, like just trying to be overstimulated all the time, then we are setting ourselves up for obstruction, and exhaustion,
Mhm.
throughout the year. But if we're cultivating this kind of kindness and sincerity, in our conduct, then you have this kind of well-behaved grandson that helps grandmother to the chair, and
Yeah.
brings her tea, cares for her. It's like giving back to the caretaker, giving back to yin, and respecting yin during this time. So we're not really supposed to go so hard, too fast. Like we can default to still doing nothing. It's
You
good.
know,
That's
one of my
completely fine.
favorite things in the world to do, and this year has been a complete go back to the beginning and start over for me. Um, and it's kind of like it's almost like the perfect time machine of like, oh, if I could go back to blank, let's do it. And I've actually found myself in exact situations in exact places, like physical spaces, and in environments where I've been able to have a redo. It's been awesome. It's
Yeah,
been almost perfect.
retrospection. Yeah, retrospection is a big part of the ox.
Mm.
Is this and retrospection. So there are two aspects of the ox I think that are most important when we're talking about like how to conduct ourselves, because we're basically trying to encourage a, not seeking advantage, especially now.
Right.
What we're trying to encourage is a living relatedness to time, right?
Right.
That's spoiler alert. That's what it's all about. So the two things that I think are really really nourishing about the ox, and they basically intonate this respect for yin, is the appreciation of continuity and
Mm.
order, meaning that like there's a ton of things that our bodies do naturally, our lives do naturally. They're just kind of set, and then we might think of them from modern mind as like, oh, these like old habits and things like that. 90% of those things are really good. We need that stuff like how you sleep, how you eat, things that sort of take care of themselves, like your body's living intelligence for how things go down. Like most of the things that happen for you physiologically are not about your intentional control at all. They're all about this sort of unintentional wave of inheritance that you receive from your ancestors. So part of respecting yin is respecting that, right? And staying with, those sort of nourishing habits. We're not looking for change. We're looking for continuity and order, right?
Mm.
And so the other aspect of, and then the secondary related aspect to that is this kind of pulling back, like that we check our pretense, during this 12th moon. And I know everybody's like, well, I've been doing nothing forever. Like nothing is actually was called for, but now as we consider going forward, We have part of being able to be available to the refreshment of spring is to just kind of relax ourselves a little bit into our disciplines, our approaches to things, to rediscover what our interest is. So that's the retrospection. That is the kind of like, let me, feel into how things have been going so far, and like where I've been and what I've been doing. And not so much that like that I need to, edit or change them. That's too aggressive. It's an appreciation, like being really appreciative of the momentum and the ways that we've handled ourselves, and maybe life lessons and things like that, all part of the dialogue. But like sort of having, that's what retrospection is this
Yeah.
appreciation for how we got here, and
Yeah.
staying with that, not so that we can then be better versions of ourselves. This cosmology, you're the best version you'll ever be. This
Yeah.
is you right now. There's
Well,
no future, like it's right now.
yeah, I mean, that's what personally, I mean, I've been working really hard to just get a lot of space to be able to finish some creative projects. And over like this final wave, I've been, kind of fumbling through trying to make a bunch of
Yeah.
space, and I finally kind of got
Yeah.
there. And now that I'm just nothing distracting me,
Mhm.
just 10 hours a day of just like silence, of just nothing, not
Great.
anything to do, and
Great.
just wake up, do some whatever exercises, and just write and start finishing creative products.
Mhm.
But to be able to treat it like I used to treat art, which is I just like doing art,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's the way that I got quote good at art. Was martial arts. I did it because I loved it, not because I was good at it. And music, I did it because
Right.
I loved it, not because I was good at it. I was a good
Right.
performer because I didn't expect anything out of the performance. I just enjoyed.
What you
Performing was the
Yeah.
way that you tested. My
Hmm.
real goal
Hmm.
was playing music. My real goal wasn't performing. Just like my
Hmm.
real goal is wellness, and I built a career out of sharing this thing that was that I enjoyed because it took my pain away. That's kind of it. But now
Hmm.
that I'm out here, just the output is so much greater because there's zero intention behind it other than I'm just making art for art's sake, and it's my joy,
Right.
and it's been pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I think that there's a lot to be said for, especially in the 12th moon, if we're talking about sincerity, we're also talking about enjoyment. Also talking about like the expression of our appetites, and how to pay attention to those things. Like Ming was very clear. It's like amazing to hear, some of the assumptions that we make about ourselves as a culture, what it means to be a human being, in this experience of an appetite is oftentimes kind of like, oh yeah, my appetites are the problem. And like I just want to eat, ice cream and cake all day, and just watch Netflix and do nothing, and then I'm not productive. They go on to this whole narrative and tangent
Yeah.
that you can't really even identify. You have to really back up on all that stuff, then start deconstructing and unraveling it. And eventually, I think it's very clear as a human being, the assumption in this cosmological outlook is that your appetites are a huge part of your incarnation. They're not bad habits. They're actually, there's something very real in there. They can be made dumb, through misconducting ourselves, is what the Chinese would say.
Right.
But at their core, like your appetites are real and they are a part of your physiology and they're inherited. There's a huge value in being able to reconnect or connect and explore our appetites. I often say to clients, like, you can tell the story of your life by just tracing your appetites.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I was into this and then I was into that, and then I did this and then I took off for 10 years, and like all that stuff is like tracing, how your appetites, for exploring life has changed as a human being. So this is a really rich time, for that. But what it requires is dropping the pretense of what we're going to do or how we're going to produce, and like all those things that you talked about. Like when you just let go of all the stimulation and the need to actually be generative, this is the kind of further retreat that you didn't know was possible, but actually is, to really drop into like what motivates you,
There was
you know.
this email that I've been writing. So I write a lot of my like a lot of this new book is going to come out. There's going to be like small like email form, then longer blog form, and then there's going to be an actual book that I'm about ready to put out. And but one of them is a lot of the a lot coming back into, I guess, the world of marketing and all this other stuff. It's they're all going back to the hero's journey. And but the hero's journey is,
uh,
there's always the hero, and then you got to have the villain, and then you got to have the guide that kind of brings you through, or the
the
teacher.
trial.
Luke has to find
Yeah.
Yoda, and they have to
Hmm.
be. But
Hmm.
one of the things is if you really, really, really boil down like a modern hero's journey, like if you're the hero of your journey, what I've realized and what I've experienced, and through all the thousands of people that I've worked with, and including myself, um, usually the villain is your view most of the time, and it's your appetites, and it's the villain isn't the appetites, it's the fact that you weren't aware of them anymore. You know what I mean? You weren't. It's the idea of like you're not aware of the choices that you're making. Like the choices one day become autopilot as opposed to choices, and that can very much be the it's habits and choices most of the time. And
Right.
but it's kind of to piggyback on what you said. If you trace
Right.
those and you weren't actually
Right.
making choices anymore, they were just kind of subconscious habits. They
Right.
might one day. I always say, whatever protected you when you're young is probably going to be the thing that kills you when you're older. So, like, you want to make
Um,
sure they don't become habits; they become treats and pastimes and hobbies and all these other things. But choose them.
what I would contribute to that is this designation that's really valuable during the 12th moon is this relationship between things that are intentional and
Oh,
unintentional,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because we are still sort of we're still in the climate of the dead. Let's put it
Mm,
that way.
mm.
And like everything about you has a precedent, and during the winter time all of those sources of those precedents are very, very close. And so you have unsettled ancestral influences, and you have beneficent ancestral influences, and there's a dialogue happening. And yes.
What do you think I'm going to ask?
What's beneficent?
Yes.
Okay, so beneficent ancestors are ones that, uh, in Ming's words, they demonstrate the generosity of the universe,
Okay.
just by their influence. And they are a recognition of all the wisdom, of your ancestors, and probably universal wisdom, because there's so much that's shared between any groups of people, right? So like all of these sort of like out of the blue statements of wisdom that just kind of come up in your head,
Mm.
and these kind of like realizations, big and small. This is all evidence of your ancestors, like especially in these 11th and 12th, 10th, 11th and 12th, all the moons of winter, their presence in your life. They're just being like, yeah, yeah, you got it. Like kind of fairy godmother is, sort of influences. Now, their influence, just in terms of power, so-called power, is infinitely off the scale, more influential than they inform your digestion, they inform your sleep patterns, like all of that. And then you have these sort of like compulsive, out of context sort of desires, like impulses and things like that come up too, which can represent these sort of unsettled ancestors, the kind of ghostly, what's called ghostly influences. Now, when you sleep deeply, well, I find this really fascinating. When you sleep deeply, which is very recommended in the 12th moon, you sort of, as the middleman, sort of drop out, and your beneficent ancestors can deal directly with the unsettled dead and help to resolve them. But one of the other ways, so deep sleep and patterns of like really owning your sleep, in the 12th moon, absolutely crucial
Mm.
if you want to be at all effective and conscious, and not just like, compulsive and idiotically impulsive, throughout the spring. like to really kind of consciously take on the opportunities of the spring. Sleep in the 12th moon is just vital, right? So you can start kind of clearing this territory because your beneficent ancestors really want that. And as it turns out, your unsettled dead do too, So sometimes we need to get out of the way. But one of the other things we can do is if you have these habits that and you want to break them, like I really I need to change this about myself. It's not really about, is recognizing, being in the place where you're already recognizing the bad habit, but you're sort of idealizing where you want to go rather than just saying, this is where I'm at, because when you stay where you're at and you're in this place where I'm recognizing these bad habits, then you have an opportunity within the space of experiencing the bad habit again and again to interject your intentionality, to interject, your actual freedom, right? So you can make a small move, like I might be back here again, but I'm gonna pick up the cigarette, I'm gonna put it in my mouth, but I'm not gonna light it.
This project that I'm writing, again, like king of the email, right? I love writing emails. I don't know why, but it's this way that I can organize my thoughts,
They're pretty
and
good. I read them.
I
Yeah,
love sharing them. I love all the feedback that I get. A lot of folks say that since I don't reply, I can't reply. It's going off on a different service, and so it's hard. So I'm trying to fix that. But I get so much feedback. Thank you guys. But this one is, how I'm always talking about power. I'm just constantly repeating myself. And if power is just the ability to make change, it's the idea is you can move your couch, you can open a window, you can put on some music. But the idea is you want to be able to make change, not fix, right? And if you take it, everything to me goes into the Marshall metaphor because all of this wisdom was most of the time it was developed by people that were in martial practice, right?
Right.
And so the martial
Some kind of yoga.
practice, yeah. The martial practice was just a great way to have all these things unfolding in a second by second or
To
interpersonal.
express.
Yeah. And so when someone they're choking you, you're not making one move to fix it. You're just doing one thing to make a change, right?
Right.
And
Right.
it's the idea between a monologue versus having a conversation. When you're just dancing in front
Yeah.
of the mirror or you're learning a relationship, you're just monologuing. But to put it into life, you have to be in conversation. And,
Right.
rarely is there just a mic drop or a talk to the hand moment in most of nature, right? So we want to, unless it's death, unless it's just, kind of off. But if we're here to work things out, it's not about
One
fixing.
of the reasons why, Ming called human beings bait for ghosts
Yeah.
is because the two things that we're doing during the 12th moon is that we are substantiating the health of the continuity that we come from. We keep alive the patterns of our health and well-being that we've inherited. And then the other thing that we do is that we offer healing to that same continuity by our behavior. So even if the unsettled dead are dead, they still need to be healed, right? So that's the idea, is like, that's the reason why we inherit the difficulty, is so that through our own behavior, we can interject this conversation. We can actually because we're the ones between the unsettled dead and the beneficent ancestors, we're the ones with the freedom. Right? We're the ones with this freedom quality of humanity. And so it is about interjecting or reinterjecting, reintroducing intentionality in these moments when we're troubled by something, like in these extreme kind of ways. But that's like 10% of the conversation that's actually being had. Most of the things that we take for granted is where the heaviness, this is yin. This is yin of like how our heart beats, how our appetites express, like a lot of the things we take for granted. So it is kind of one of those opportunities for us to abide in those things that we can take for granted. And that's the reason why our respect for yin, is when we can do that. So, it is kind of like, the two things that I would advise people, in their interpersonal relationships, particularly because we're still in a rabbit year. So that interpersonal interconnection actually does matter quite a lot. is lower our expectations of each other and take each other for granted because we can, because we should, because yeah, I haven't heard from my friend in like a couple of weeks or whatever. So what? Like actually, send out that person like your appreciation for them. Don't take it personal. It's not about taking things personal. It's about taking each other for granted because this is the time when we should be taking each other for granted. In that way. And I think there's a sincerity in that, which is really beautiful. Yeah.
Was that a Matchbox 20 song? I wanna push you around. I wanna take you for granted. You know what? What
I
was
can
that song?
safely say I don't know anything
Well,
about what
I
you're talking
will. Well, I
over.
will. You know what I'm saying? I wanna push you around. Well, I will.
I think the last thing that I would say in terms of, because this isn't a time for empowerment, this isn't a time for seeking advantage, right? It's everything that we've talked about. Like if you're looking for advantage, you'll stumble. And the stumbling is very good. It should actually bring you back to yourself. Yeah, Matt.
I think the ultimate empowered power move is not doing anything. Because
Agreed.
as a person that has tried for 2 years to not do anything, now that I'm not doing anything,
It's pretty good, huh?
it's,
It's like it's pretty rad.
it's
It takes a while.
crazy. It's hard to stop the train. It's not a detox of this. It's a detox of this, and it's a
Yeah.
detox of. I'm really grateful to be around my brother because he and I are both. I mean, we've been hard laborers since middle school.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard
And
stories about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he and I both are just like, yeah, I'm not doing anything. And so it's like and
Right.
so it is kind of like coming back, and now I'm kicking it with my brother. Um, yeah, he's just like, yeah, we're not doing. I mean, it's just super fun to be around
So
a Lucas.
so it should be a quiet time, like the 12th moon, in fact, should be fairly quiet,
Okay.
but there is this, we can anticipate somewhat. And then, like you say, like kind of sharpen the hoe, get our equipment ready, get the thing, kind of ducks in a row a little bit, um, don't take it too seriously. Don't try to get a head start, but just kind of work on what you have. And the one thing I can recommend beyond everything we talked about, specifically for the 12th moon, is remembering that we are still in a rabbit year. And this is the rabbit's fluffy tail before it's gone, right? So the question that I would put to everybody who's listening is, how would a rabbit prepare for manifestation? Which is what
None of us
the
know.
dragon
It's a
is all
rabbit.
about.
Your rabbits do the same thing they always do. They're either having sex or pooping on everything, or they're trying
Right.
to
No,
chew up random. So choose some things, have a lot of sex, and just after the sex, leave a lot of little poop on the bed, and you're good.
so the answer to the question, how a rabbit would prepare for manifestation, because we've been on retreat. So we've been in a situation where things are enclosed, right?
Are you
Chi
are
wise. Yeah.
are you about to metaphorically prove to me that you've never hung out with rabbits?
Oh no, I know. I have hung out with rabbits, like for sure.
All right.
They're very discreet. Yeah. But the answer to the question is, how would a rabbit prepare for manifestation, is by changing their habitat,
Mhm.
by changing their surroundings. So by that extension, I would say, to anybody's interested, clean the home. Spring cleaning is before spring.
Mhm.
It's before spring comes,
Very
because you
interesting.
want to have like a clean, open environment to accept the chi that's coming in. So changes in the home um, will reflect what's available. Will make you more available for whatever it is that's coming. And like it can be kind of precognitive. Like the kinds of changes that you want to make can be reflective of as actually what's coming. So
And is that
I
a
don't know.
blanket for everybody? Like, say, I'm a dragon, you're a pig.
absolutely. You know, not everybody might be available to that. You try to give that explanation to a horse and they'd be like, oh, okay, whatever, you know, like, but if you feel sort of called, you know, to clean out, you know what, I've been using that spare bedroom as storage. So I've decided to clean that out and just like, I don't know why, you know, and the next thing you know, your mother-in-law needs to come stay with you, you know, like it's these little changes in our environment that actually set the stage. And that's a way of respecting yin, you know, that's a way of like actually being in touch with your surroundings. So that home metaphor is a metaphor. So it can apply to like your living spaces, but also going to apply to your practices, just like how you want to carry yourself. May not be any drastic moves here, but and I'm not necessarily encouraging a drastic move, but I'm just saying that like being open in that way, like maybe just decorative, you know, how you want to change things around, or just cleaning surfaces, getting everything kind of like reset, you know, then you know, makes you available for when the year actually turns. It's a very rabbity response to what's coming, you know, the feeling of what's coming, and everybody should be pretty is in the 12th moon is going to get more aware as the 12th moon progresses of what's coming, because it's not quiet, you know, what's coming. So enjoy your quiet now and like don't get too anxious about it. Just work with what you have, you know. That would be my take on that.
Oh yeah, nice.
You know, because we've been in this very enclosed environment in this kind of sheltered, secure kind of way. And so if you're going to widen the aperture, you know, to make yourself available, you have to do it gradually. You should do it gradually, and you should do it like in as intentional as you can, you know, just kind of sit with like how that's going to work for you, because your home spaces is from a Chinese tradition, especially in a rabbit year, very crucial, you know.
When you are preparing someone for a fight in competition, um, it's, I think one of the hardest things to do is that you train sometimes like twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, right? And then you go through the whole thing, and it's really hard before the fight, those 2 days before the fight, because your job is to do nothing. It's pretty much just sleep.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's hard to do, but what people don't realize is because you're thinking like, because you've heard over and over and over again, if you're not training, the person that you're about to fight is, right? You're hearing that all the time. And and then you're thinking, oh my God, I'm not training. In 2 days, if you're used to training 2, 3 times a day, not train. The amount of times that I've thought that I'm going to lose everything I've worked for, and I'm training. You know
Into
what I mean? I lived in a dojo. Like I'm training sometimes 6 to 10 hours a day, and I think if I take 2 days off, I'm going to lose it all. I'm going to lose every skill I've developed over the past 25 years of training 10 hours a day. But for some reason, you do. You think that it's an addiction. And
hmm
but the most
hmm
important thing, when you take those 2 days off before that fight, and you come out and then you just do that first little warm up before the fight, and you hit, I mean,
you're
the amount of
ready.
power that you're generating because you've healed, you know what I mean, like you, oh my God, it's crazy. So I feel you
hmm
on that. Just like sit back
hmm
and just be
hmm
okay with the fact that you, um I guess to kind of say, I'm around a lot of people that are always trying to quote heal, and this is a time to stop trying to heal. Your body heals. Like,
Yeah.
a
I mean,
lot of times just eat right and rest.
yeah, anybody who's interested in healing in any way, shape, or form, you know, beyond like legitimate levels of treatment and things like that,
Yeah.
the only thing that I could offer is sleep, you know,
Yeah.
like deep sleep, not just like, you know, go to bed at like 7 o'clock, you know, get
Yeah.
a head start. Like I did that. I not was it wasn't 7, but like I actually went to bed like a couple hours earlier one day than I normally would, and it made a huge difference in the dreaming, in like in the amount of deep sleep that I got, because I felt like I kind of got a head start on it. I didn't have a nap or anything that day. I just like actually I'm gonna try and go to bed like hell early. And like I
Mhm.
did, and the sleep that I got was like astounding. You know, it was like 10 hours or so. Um, but it was just it was incredibly nourishing. And I think that's available for everyone, you know.
One of my favorite conversations I had last night was with a friend of mine, and and instead of like we were trading pictures, back and forth, but
Uh-huh.
the pictures they were sending me, we were just like, instead of like sharing pictures of like them with family, they were just sharing pictures of their latest MRI, and so we're just going through and we're just like just talking about like how to adjust life for what is going on in this MRI, and it was really fun because it was boiling down to just like rest, hydrate, you know what I mean? Just like these like really simple things, but it was really fun because it was like getting so much was happening just by seeing the internals of this person, and so we were just kind of geeking out on that. It was really fun.
Well, just to call attention to the fact that this is our last new moon talk for the rabbit year.
Mm.
So if we were going to be retrospective and think about the rabbit year, like personally, but also just sort of substantively, I think one of the things you said earlier, it took me 2 years not to do anything.
Mm.
And now that I'm not doing anything, I feel the best I've ever felt. And I think that one of the one of the core principles of being in any rabbit year, but particularly a water rabbit year, is that our environmental condition affects us deeply. Like
Mm.
wherever we are on a variety of concentric circles, like me being in the Bay, being in California, United States, blah, blah, blah. Right. So all those different layers, the concentric circles actually really do affect in how much we're exposed to social media, information, sunshine, like all that stuff, exercise. And one of the things I think is pretty valuable to see, and I've seen this in just like social media in general, is the recognition of how much stress everybody feels and constantly under this like incredible pressure of like horrific acts happening in the world, war, death, and like a kind of constant barrage of imagery and all this sort of stress that we've been under. And, but because you can get up and function and do things in the world, you think it doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
And I think that should be one of the primary major teachings and points of reflection for us being in a retrospective 12th moon is that it does. It does like really, really deeply in, and we need to be in touch with that. And that's not being California woo woo. That's actually a very real condition, of our humanity.
There's
It's
a
very hard, so
one
stressful.
one of the big points of being grateful is knowing that the easiest way to make a human being feel helpless and disempowered is to show them things that are outside of their control that make them
Right.
feel an emotion. And
Right.
so um, I care about people. I care about peace and all these things. But if I'm going to watch something outside of my control and it's going to make me act out of pocket and treat people poorly or bring bad energy or negativity into the people that I can affect,
Right. In
I'm
this
not.
moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So there's uh, hard. You know me. You're hard pressed to ever know that whether or not I'm like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. There's something negative going on in
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, right
A
on.
huge
Congratulate.
moon and
It's like
everybody
don't
died.
care.
Yep, yep.
Don't care. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Got it.
And
Check.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So this is my. I know people think I want to stand for it. You're no, you don't. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think there are limits to it
yeah,
respectfully.
yeah,
It's a delicate navigation still,
yeah.
particularly in this moon. And one of the primary things that we'll be talking about come the dragon year and the opportunities of the dragon is this kind of reclamation of our power and
Mm,
like how to and what does it mean to express power. There's an opportunity in every dragon year because dragon year is all about power, and power as it relates not necessarily to like tiger or horse or ox kind of power, but the kind of power which has this in the integrity of how things actually work,
mm,
you know, and looking at things like completely transparently, right? So there's this opportunity in every dragon year and will be also in this dragon year. And what we'll be talking about when we talk about the dragon year is going to piggyback a lot with like what Ming talked about 12 years ago with the water dragon. And it is this kind of opportunity to reclaim our power, how we're affected by our environment and how we, express ourselves in the environment. What's the connection between those things, which is what we've been inundated with all year long in ways that we can't necessarily fully pinpoint and describe, because the water of the water rabbit is like a mist or like a fog, so you can't really, where's the center of the fog? Like, where's the cause, in the fog? You don't know, and I think that's been very real all year long, and it's still happening. It's just that now the fog is kind of starting to disperse, but you still don't know where the center is, so that's why we should respect yin.
We should have a journaling contest. If everyone has to write a poem, we'll have a poetry contest, or not a contest, but just if it's good, we'll post it. Everyone write a poem called "What is the Center of the Fog?"
What is the center of the fog? Ooh.
Center. Actually, I'm looking for a new place right now, guys. I'm looking for a new place, and the best place I've found so far is this beautiful church. I was like, should I buy a church? I kind of want to buy a big church, and it's on a beautiful reservoir.
West.
Yeah, it's on a reservoir, and all this is really cool. Anyways, but I would call it the center of the fog. That's awesome.
Dude,
Constantly playing Enya crystals. No, I wouldn't do any of that. But okay, well, I'm gonna get out of here. Man, that was amazing.
Right.
Okay, I have some openings. This is a time for the journaling stuff, and I'm making some changes with the way that I'm taking clients right now, just due to time. And so if you guys want to, throw me an email and go on the site, contact me, and let's do the journaling stuff, because I can guarantee you, I've been cruising around training people. The numbers are in. This work can, again, it's not about journaling to get something. It's about literally going deeper into the way that you can express and communicate your thoughts and ideas. So hit me up. Hit Scott up for a reading. New Year's coming, and then you're doing the New Year's talk this time.
David
Weighs February, right? February 10th.
February 10th.
Yeah. Okay.
February 10th. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's there'll be tickets. 36 max is what the spot can provide, but we have we'll have it recorded, and
And I just talked to David Way today, behind Scott's back, and and I'm gonna try to get back to the Bay by that time to film, and then we can actually do a package as well, and we can do a collab between Wudong West and the Yama system.
Working with a dragon and a monkey, I couldn't have better partners. It's great. Yep. Yeah, man.
All right. Well, I'll call you in a little bit. You guys go on the Yama system. What is my website? Is it the Yama system?